Hello, Governor. My question is about Elizabeth Warren's snub against Kamala Harris regarding support for Harris as vice president in 2024. The rumor is that the senator has made a couple of attempts to apologize, but Vice President Harris hasn't responded. What kind of message does this dissent within the party send to the American people? Even if Elizabeth Warren truly does feel like Harris might not be the best fit, in the large scheme of things, does it really matter? Best, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. This is a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. It's also a little bit a vignette on politics and politicians. Sometimes politicians shouldn't be that candid, that frank, that honest, or they get into trouble. And that's what happened, I think, with Senator Warren. First, the question of who should be the vice president, as I think Senator Warren was trying to signal, the president should decide who is the running mate. Yes, the party matters, and yes, people matter, and the delegates matter. But it's an important relationship, the president and vice president. It has to be built on trust. It has to be built on respect. So who the president wants is a major factor in that decision. And I think part of what Senator Warren was trying to say is, I defer to President Biden and his preference for vice president. It's his decision to make. Also, you know who your vice president is. These are not marital contracts, right? And there can be changes. Governor, lieutenant governor, I've gone through that. Situations change, needs change. So every 4 years, a reassessment, I think, is appropriate. But Senator Warren touched the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is Vice President Kamala Harris is not that popular, if you believe polls that they take. And people have been less than enthused with Vice President Harris. And that's why I think Senator Warren's comments took off the way they did, because it was touching that elephant in the room, even though you were talking about Democrats. And I think that's why it got the attention that it did receive. The vice president selection is going to be very important, especially if President Biden runs for re-election, because people are going to say that vice president might very well become president, and I think there'll be more attention on who the vice president is. Again, that's if President Biden runs. I am not convinced that President Biden runs for re-election. I know everybody says in the Democratic Party that he's going to run for re-election, but in many ways they have to say that. If you don't say you're running for re-election, then you're basically a lame duck, and you sacrifice tremendous power as an executive. So it's in the executive's best interest, it's in the legislative leader's best interest to say the president's going to run for re-election. Keeps the president viable, vital in the mix, and helps the legislative leaders actually get things done. So when Schumer and Speaker Pelosi said Joe Biden's going to run again and we support him, that could very well be a part of the Washington machine, preserving the Washington machine. So we'll see what happens with President Biden, but I am not convinced. But I do believe you'll have more attention on that vice president position, and I do believe the relationship president to vice president is very important. Now, again, I'm biased. Governor to lieutenant governor is what I dealt with, and my comfort level, my trust in the lieutenant governor, and the capacity of the lieutenant governor was very important. You know, it can be a real partnership, and it can give you a very strong right hand, or it can give you very little. So I think the president's decision and the president's opinion should be weighed very heavily.